The ferry pulls into a port you have never heard of, and the first thing you notice is the silence. No cruise ships, no crowds queuing for that one famous photograph, just whitewashed steps, a couple of cats in the shade, and a fisherman stitching a net like he has all day. This is the Cyclades, the real Cyclades, and I wanted to know what happens when you skip Santorini and Mykonos entirely and island hop the rest. The Cyclades are a scattered constellation of islands in the Aegean Sea, southeast of Athens. Most travellers see two of them, Santorini for the sunsets, Mykonos for the parties, and fly home thinking they have done Greek island hopping. But there are over 30 Cycladic islands, and the ones without the Instagram fame might be the ones that actually deserve your time. Over 10 islands and roughly 2 weeks, I set out to find the answer. By the last ferry ride, it was obvious.
The journey starts where it should, with the actual capital of the Cyclades, which almost nobody visits. Syros does not look like the Greece you have imagined. Ermoupoli, its main town, was built by refugees and Venetian merchants and feels more like a miniature Italian city than a Cycladic village. There's a grand neoclassical town hall facing a marble-paved square, an Apollo theatre modelled after La Scala, the first opera house in Greece, opened in 1864. And a harbour still lined with shipyards repairing fishing boats, not selling fridge magnets. Wander up through Syros, the medieval Catholic quarter on the hill, where narrow lanes switch back past arched doorways, and every turn reveals a different angle of the harbour below. Rooms in Ermoupoli run 60 to 90 euros a night, even in high summer. The ferry from Athens Piraeus takes about 4 hours on a standard boat, closer to 2 on the fast catamaran.
Syros is where the Cycladic ferry network radiates from, and it sets an unexpected tone, more opera than ouzo. An hour south by fast ferry, Paros is the transit hub of the Cyclades. Most island hopping routes pass through here, but it earns more than a layover. Naxos on the northern coast started as a fishing village and grown into something livelier. Waterfront restaurants, a few cocktail bars, a nightlife scene that stays just the right side of hectic. The old harbour, with its half-submerged Venetian fortress, rewards a morning wander when the light is low and the chairs are still stacked. Head to Columbitres Beach on the northwest coast, where smooth granite boulders rise from the sand like they were sculpted by someone with a sense of humour. Windsurfing at Golden Beach on the southeast side draws serious riders from across Europe. Board rental runs about €40 for a half day, and the Meltemi wind that blows in July and August is reliable enough to plan around. Paros gives you polish without pretension, a warm-up for what is coming. A 10-minute boat ride from Paros' western port of Punta takes you to Antiparos, and the pace drops the moment you step off the gangway. The main town is essentially one pedestrian street, a handful of shops, a few tavernas where dinner moves at a speed that suggests nobody has anywhere to be afterward. The real draw is underground. Antiparos Cave, a 10-minute drive south, is one of Europe's oldest documented show caves. You descend 411 steps into a chamber of stalactites and stalagmites, some of them 45 million years old. Entry is about €6. Lord Byron scratched his name on a stalagmite in 1826, and you can still see it, arguably the most expensive graffiti in Greece. The island works as a half-day trip from Paros, or a full day of doing almost nothing, which on the right afternoon is exactly right. 40 minutes by ferry from Paros, and the scale changes. Naxos is the largest of the Cyclades, and it feels it. Actual mountains here, green valleys, villages tucked into the interior that you would never guess were on an island. The Portara, the massive marble doorway standing alone on the peninsula at the harbour entrance, is the postcard shot. It is the remains of an unfinished temple of Apollo from the 6th century BC, and at sunset it frames the sky in a way that makes photographers lose track of time. But the real discovery is inland. Rent a car for a day, about €35, and drive up into the Tregeia Valley, where Byzantine churches sit quietly among olive groves, and the village of Halki sells kitron, a citrus liqueur made from local citron trees that tastes like nothing you have tried before. On the western coast, Agios Prokopios and Plaka beaches stretch for kilometres, shallow, sandy, calm. Genuinely ideal for families with young children who want warm water without waves.
3 islands in, and I'm starting to think the famous ones might actually be the wrong ones. From Naxos, a small ferry runs to Koufonisia, actually 2 tiny islands, Ano Koufonisia and Kato Koufonisia, though almost everyone stays on Ano. This is where island hopping becomes intimate. The entire island is walkable in an hour. One path follows the southern coast past cove after cove of turquoise water and white sand, each one small enough to feel private. Pori Beach at the eastern end has natural rock pools carved into the shoreline. You float in warm, shallow water while the Aegean stretches out below. The waterfront in the port has 4 or 5 tavernas, all good, all simple. The grilled octopus at Capitan Nicholas is worth arriving hungry for. No rental cars here, no rental cars needed. In July and August, rooms fill fast. Book at least a month ahead. Koufonisia does one thing and does it well. It lets you stop.
The boat to Amorgos takes another couple of hours, and the island rises from the sea like a wall. This is the dramatic Cyclades. Sheer cliffs, deep blue water, a feeling of genuine remoteness, even though Athens is only a few hours away by ferry. The monastery of Panagia Hosio-Itisa, painted white and pressed into a cliff face 300 metres above the Aegean, is one of Greece's most extraordinary buildings. It has stood here since 1017 AD. A steep trail leads up from the road. Wear proper shoes and carry water. And at the top, the monks welcome visitors with a small glass of racamello and a piece of lucumi. Below, Agia Anna Beach is rocky, but the swimming is spectacular, and snorkeling along the cliff base reveals sea caves you can swim into. The serious hiking is on the ridge trail from Agiali to the village of Leganda, crossing mountain spines with views that make you stop walking and just stand. If Santorini sells drama with a cocktail in hand, Amorgos earns it with your legs. Backtracking west, the ferry to Folegandros takes about 2 hours. The Hora here sits on the edge of a cliff 200 metres above the sea, and it might be the most purely beautiful village in the Cyclades. It is small, genuinely small, maybe a few hundred permanent residents, and the main square has 3 trees, a handful of tavernas with mismatched chairs, and a church at the cliff edge where locals gather at sunset. The walk up to the Panagia Church above town follows a zigzag path of whitewashed steps with views of the southern Aegean unfolding below. No guardrails, no ticket booth, no crowds. Just you and the wind, and a church glowing in the late light. Accommodation ranges from €50 to €100 depending on the season. Folegandros is what people picture when they think of Greek island life, before the reality of tourist infrastructure adjusts the image. Halfway through this trip, and the answer to the driving question is becoming harder to ignore. 2 hours southwest by ferry, Milos hits differently. This island is volcanic, and you feel it in every surface. Rock striped in white, orange and rust red, sculpted by wind and sea into formations that do not look natural. Sarakinico on the northern coast is the headline. Smooth white rock flowing down to clear water, resembling the surface of the moon more than anything Mediterranean. Arrive early morning or late afternoon. By midday in summer, the lunar landscape fills with beach towels. The signature experience on Milos is a full-day boat tour of the coastline, which runs about 50 to 70 euros and takes you past the sea caves at Clifftop, massive rock arches and tunnels rising from water so blue it looks filtered, and beaches accessible only from the water. Plaka, the main hilltop village, has a sunset from its Castro ruins that challenges anything the famous islands deliver. For dinner, Amos in the port town of Adamos serves plates so large the name, meaning the chaos, starts to make sense. Milos feels like the island that should already be famous and has simply been waiting its turn. 90 minutes by ferry to the north, Sifnos shifts the register again. This is the food island. Greeks know it, even if most international visitors do not. Nikolaos Chelamentes, the father of modern Greek cookbook writing, was born here, and his legacy lives in the local cooking. Revithada, a slow-baked chickpea stew prepared in clay pots in wood-fired ovens, appears on every menu and tastes different at each taverna. Earthy, rich, the kind of dish that makes you reconsider the chickpea entirely. Sunday is the traditional day for it, when the pots come out of the ovens by midday. Chrysopigi Monastery, perched on a rocky outcrop connected to the island by a narrow footbridge, is one of the Cyclades' most photographed buildings, and somehow it still surprises in person. The hiking trails here follow old stone-paved paths connecting hillside villages. A loop from Apollonia through Castro and back takes about 3 hours and passes through landscape that alternates between terraced hillsides and coastal views. Castro, the medieval former capital, is a compact settlement where the outer walls of the houses themselves formed the fortification. Step inside through the one remaining archway and you are in a village that has barely changed in 5 centuries. A full meal with wine on Sifnos runs about 15 euros. The food alone justifies the ferry ticket. The last island, a short hop from Sifnos, Serifos is the wild card in this deck. The landscape is dry and mineral, the product of a mining history that left rusting iron infrastructure at Mega Livadi on the southwest coast, where ore was once loaded directly onto ships. It is hauntingly beautiful in a way that shares nothing with the whitewashed postcard version of the Cyclades.
The Kora perches on a steep conical hill above the port, one of the most dramatically positioned villages in the Aegean. The climb takes a solid 20 minutes uphill, but the reward is a labyrinth of narrow lanes, sudden staircases, and a view from the ruined Venetian Castro at the summit that stretches in every direction to the horizon. Below, Lividaki Beach is a sandy crescent, a 10-minute walk south of the port, holding maybe 20 people on it even in August. Serifos does not try to charm you, it simply is what it is, and that turns out to be enough. So what happens when you skip Santorini and Mykonos entirely? You find the Cyclades have been hiding their real depth behind 2 famous names. You find volcanic moonscapes and 1,000-year-old monasteries clinging to cliffs. You eat revithada from clay pots on an island devoted to food and swim into sea caves accessible only by boat. You stand in a clifftop Kora at sunset with a dozen other people instead of 1,000. Every island carries its own gravity. Syros feels Italian, Amorgos feels wild, Sifnos tastes like your Greek grandmother's kitchen. The famous islands sell you a postcard. The rest of the Cyclades hand you something closer to a life.
Like, if this was interesting, hit the subscribe for more and turn that notification bell on.